Hello everyone. Good morning everyone. This is Dr. Sumaya Khan. I welcome you all to the another video of the NEET game. So as you know, we are approaching towards the exam that is on the 13th September. So from today onwards, I'll be focusing more on the multiple choice questions and basically discussing more about all the previous year questions. So today I'm starting with one of the question paper from the previous year, that is NEET 2018 question paper. In this video, I'll be discussing some questions about close to 50% of the question we are going to discuss in this video. And in the next video, we will be discussing the remaining questions. So let's start with the first question. The first question says that which of the following hormones can play a significant role in osteoporosis? So what they are talking about, they're asking you about the osteoporosis. So first of all, you have to understand the question. What is actually your osteoporosis is? So osteoporosis is actually also known as the porous disease. It causes the pores in the bones, and it is a bone disease which leads to the decrease in the bony content of your bones. So in this disease, the females are generally affected after their menopause. So this osteoporosis is affected by the different hormones. So in the options, this says about the parathyroid hormone and the prolactin. The second option says that aldosterone and prolactin, estrogen and parathyroid hormone, and the progesterone and the aldosterone. So as you know, parathyroid hormone is an important hormone which is regulating the calcium balance in our body, in the blood as well as in the bones. Okay. And coming to the prolactin, prolactin is a milk secreting hormone. So this cannot be the correct option. Coming to the next option, that is your aldosterone and prolactin. Aldosterone is related to the ionic balance in the body, estrogen and the parathyroid hormone. So this is actually your correct option. Estrogen and the parathyroid hormone both helps in play a significant role in the osteoporosis. How does it that do? So here is an explanation for this, that the parathyroid hormone and estrogen both helping in the osteoporosis. How? It maintains the calcium balance, okay, by stimulating the bone resorption and helps in the formation of the bone. And estrogen inhibits the bone resorption. So this is how the parathyroid hormone and the estrogen is going to help us, or it is the significance for the osteoporosis. So what should be the correct answer? The correct option here is third option. Now let's come to the next question. Which of the following is an amino acid derivative hormone? The option says estriol, epinephrine, estradiol, and ecdysone. So epinephrine, which is also known as the adrenaline, is the only hormone which is an amino acid derivative hormone out of these given options. Remaining options, estriol, estradiol, and ecdysone, they all are steroid derivative hormone. They are not at all an amino acid or peptide or a polypeptide based hormone. All of them are the, a steroid based hormone. So what should be the answer? The option is, correct option is your second option. Now, let's come to the next question. This is the match the column questions. You have to make it, first of all, read the question very carefully and always underline the important part of the question. So what is the important part of the question here? Which of the following structure or regions is incorrectly paired with its function? The word incorrectly is very important, always underline that part which is important to the question. So the option is about the corpus callosum, medulla oblongata, hypothalamus, and the limbic system. So corpus callosum actually is a band of fibers which divide the hemispheres into the right and the left cerebral hemisphere. So this is a correct option. Medulla oblongata controls the respiration, the cardioreflexes. So this is also true. Hypothalamus is involved in the release of the hormones. We know it is known as the master of the master gland. So this is also a true statement. So they are asking about the incorrect statement. So limbic system is actually a wrong option. So this is your correct answer, though it is an incorrectly paired and your correct answer, because limbic system is actually a set of a structure which is involved mainly in the emotions, memory. So they are involving in that. So your option is the fourth option, which is a incorrectly paired. So this is how you have to do the match the column questions. Always underline the question which is they are asking, whether they are asking about the correct option or whether they are asking about the incorrect option, and then do the question. That will make you a easy way, or this is an easy way to get the correct answer out of the four given options. Now The next question says that a transparent lens in the human eye is held in its place by a smooth muscles attached to the ciliary body, ligaments attached to the ciliary body, smooth muscles attached to the iris, and ligaments attached to the iris. So look at the picture given here. This is your lens, right? This is your lens, and these are your suspensory ligaments which are holding your lens with the help of the ciliary body. Okay, they are ligaments which is known as the suspensory ligaments, which is holding your lens with the help of the ciliary body. So what should be the answer accordingly? The answer is the second option, that the ligaments attached to the ciliary body is actually holding our eye lens. So answer is 2. Now, the next question says that the amnion, okay, amnion, which is acting as a shock absorber, is in the mammalian embryo is derived from. We have 3 germ layers, as you know, ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. Each of the germ layer give rise to the different structures of the embryo. So we are asking here about the amnion is of which origin, whether it is endomeso, ectomeso, ectoendo. Okay, so the option is about ectoderm and mesoderm. Ectoderm and mesoderm, mesoderm and trophoblast, and endoderm and the mesoderm. So amnion is actually arises from what? It is arising from the embryonic somatic mesoderm on the outer side and extra embryonic ectoderm on the inner side. That means, what is its nature? Its nature is ecto and mesodermal in nature. So it is ecto mesodermal in nature. So this is about the fifth question. The 50th question, that is the amnion is ecto-mesodermal in origin. Now, the next question is also related to similar reproductive system here, that the hormones secreted by the placenta to maintain the pregnancy are. The option says HCG, progesterone, estrogen, and glucocorticoids, HCG, HPL, progesterone, and the prolactin, HCG, HPL, progesterone, and the estrogen, and HCG, HPL, estrogen, relaxin, and the oxytocin. So first of all, what is the full form of HCG? HCG is, guys, human chorionic, okay, human chorionic gonadotropin. This is the full form of your HCG. Then we have the second one is the HPL. What is HPL? Human placental. Okay, as the name suggests, it is secreted from the placenta. Human placental lactogen. That is the full form of HPL. Now, the correct option according to this is the HCG, HPL, progesterone, and estrogen. They all are secreted by your placenta during the time of the pregnancy. So that's why the option third is correct. Prolactin is a milk secreting hormone. It is produced in the mammary gland. It has nothing to do with the placenta. Okay, glucocorticoids is not related to the pregnancy. It is related to your adrenal gland. Oxytocin help in the parturition, the delivery of the baby, as well as it is a milk ejecting hormone. So out of these, what is the correct option here? HCG, HPL, progesterone, and estrogen. All these 4 hormones are going to be secreted by your placenta. Let's come to the next question. The Saheli, which is a contraceptive. This is an oral contraceptive, okay? It is an oral contraceptive. So what does this oral contraceptive do? They are asking about. It is a post-coital contraceptive. Post-coital means that is taken after having a sexual contact. Blocks estrogen receptors in the uterus, preventing eggs from getting implanted. It is a IUD. What is IUD? Intrauterine device. It is a intrauterine device they are asking. Okay, which is Saheli is not an intrauterine device. I already told you it is a contraceptive pill actually. Okay, it is a oral contraceptive pills. Now it increases the concentration of estrogen and prevents the ovulation in females. So actually this contraceptive which is taken, and it is a non-steroidal. The another important thing that it is non-steroidal or non-hormonal. Okay, it does not contain any hormone like progesterone and estrogen in it. It is actually blocking the estrogen receptors in the uterus and thus preventing the implantation of the embryo there. So this is about the Saheli. So the correct option comes here, the second option. Now, let's move ahead. This is a question related to the human sperm formation. That is a difference between the spermiogenesis and the spermiation. A very, a little bit confusing question, but a very important question. The question says spermiogenesis and the spermiation. So, spermiogenesis is actually what? Spermiogenesis is the formation of the sperms, or you can say spermatozoa. But how? It forms the spermatids. When the spermatids are forming the sperms or the spermatozoa, this process is known as the spermiogenesis. Second, they are asking about the spermiation. What is the spermiation? So actually when the spermatids are released from the seminiferous tubules, or when the spermatids are released from the Sertoli cells into the cavity of the seminiferous tubule, we call this process as a spermiation. So according to the options given, what should be the correct option? That the in spermiogenesis, spermatids are formed from motile spermatozoa, and spermiation is a process in which mature spermatids are released from Sertoli cells into the seminiferous tubules. So the first option is your correct option. That is, in spermiogenesis, spermatozoa are formed, while in spermiation, the spermatozoa are released from the Sertoli cells. So in the first option only, you get your correct answer. So first of all, understand both the process, and then you can easily find out the option here. Now, a woman has an X-linked condition on one of her X chromosome. That means what they are trying to say, that woman is a carrier of a disease. Okay, she is a carrier of the disease. That you have to understand, because women have XX, right? So if she is having condition on one of the X chromosomes, that means she is a carrier of a particular disease. So these chromosomes can be inherited by both sons and daughter, only daughters, only grandchildren, and only son. So let's see a cross for it to understand this question. So here is a carrier mother. Okay, let's say she is having a certain disease. Let's say she has a carrier of a hemophilia disease. Let's say H represents here. Then XY is a normal father. So when the gametes are formed, after this, when the offsprings are formed, you'll see that there is an X-linked disease son, there is a carrier daughter, there is a normal daughter, and there is a normal son. So this condition can be inherited, which is going to inherit both son and daughter. But son will be a diseased one. Okay, son will be a diseased, and female will be a carrier. And we will have a normal son also and normal daughter also. So both son and daughter will going to get this disease. So this is an important question. You can make a cross and you can find out. Sometimes, they ask you about the probability also of the disease, that what is the chances of getting. So here you can see there is a 50% chances of having a disease and 50% chances of not having a disease. So this also you can calculate using this cross. Now, next question comes based on the evolution, that according to the Hugo de Vries, the mechanism of evolution is a minor mutation, a multiple step mutations, a phenotypic variations, and a saltation. So actually Hugo de Vries talk about the saltation effect. Okay, he talk a lot about the saltation effect, which is a single large step mutation. So Hugo de Vries gives us a theory of the saltation. So your answer is fourth option. Now, the next question, that is a 56th question according to the question paper. All of the followings are a part of the operon except, okay, except a promoter, a operator, an enhancer, and a structural genes. First of all, what is a promoter? Promoter is an area where your polymerase enzyme will come and bind for the transcription. Let's say RNA polymerase is an enzyme that is involved in the transcription. Operator is a site where generally repressor molecules or activator molecules comes and bind and going to control your transcription. Then we have the enhancer. So enhancer is actually a region which does not participate, or which is not actually a part of your operon. It is actually a short region of the DNA which is bounded by the proteins, which can be activator also and which can be inhibitor also, depending upon the requirement. If it is an activator, it is going to increase your rate of transcription. If it is a repressor, or you can say if it is an inactivator, it is going to decrease the rate of transcription. So enhancer is actually not at all a part of your operon. And structural genes, as we know, if we talk about the lac operon, we know that they have a leg Z, okay, leg Y, leg A, okay, they all are structural, leg ZYA. Okay, these are your structural genes found in the lac operon. Now, the next question comes, match the items given in the column 1 with those in the column 2 and select the correct option given below. So this is a question based on the menstrual cycle. So the first option is about the proliferative phase. So proliferative phase is also known as the follicular phase, where their follicles is going to grow. Okay, they are going to grow. The second is the secretory phase, which is also known as your luteal phase. Secretory phase is also known as your luteal phase. Then we have the menstruation. So this is actually when the endometrium lining is going to break down and the menstrual discharge is going to be passed out from the vagina of the female. So menstruation is associated with the breakdown of the endometrium lining of the uterus. So C matches with the first option. So what will be the option accordingly? According to the proliferative phase is going to matches with the second option. Your secretory phase is going to matches with what? Secretory phase is your luteal phase. And last, that is your C will matches with the first one. So second, third, first. Second, third, first. So your option third is the correct option. Now, the next question. In which disease does mosquito transmitted pathogen causes chronic inflammation of the lymphatic vessels? So options talk about amoebiasis, elephantiasis, ringworm, and the ascariasis. You know, elephantiasis, which is caused by a Wucheria bancrofti. You have to remember this name also. It is caused by a Wucheria bancrofti. This disease is also known as the filariasis. Okay, it is also known as the filariasis because this is a filarial worm. Okay, this is a filarial worm which causes elephantiasis, in which the legs of the individual appear like as if of the elephant. That's why we call this disease as the elephantiasis disease. And why does it happen? It happens because of the chronic inflammation of the lymphatic vessels. So what is your answer? Your answer is the second option. Now, the next question says, among the following sets of example for divergent evolution, select the incorrect option. So here also you are going to underline the important point of the question, that is incorrect option you have to tell me. So the option says, eye of the octopus, bat and men, forelimbs of men, bat and cheetah, brain of the bat, men and cheetah, heart of a bat, men and cheetah. So first of all, you have to understand that the correct option here is the eye of the octopus, bat, mammal are formed due to convergent evolution. So what is the correct answer here? The correct option is 1. So why this is the correct option? First of all, you have to understand this. What is divergent? What is the convergent evolution? So divergent evolution actually is giving rise to the homologous structures. Homologous structures are the structures in which they have the same ancestors. Structurally, you will be similar, but functionally you will be different. So if you look at this structure, that is the eye of the octopus, bat and men, they are not actually an example of the divergent evolution because they are not a homologous structures, and they are an example of the convergent evolution, which is related to what? Which is related to the analogous structures, where the functions are the same, but structurally and ancestrally both they are different. So eye of the octopus, mammals, they are arise due to the convergent evolution because they all are related to what? They all are related to the analogous structure. They organs all are going to perform the same function, but structurally as well as homology, through that means through the ancestors they will be different. So answer is first. These questions are really very confusing, but you have to get at this question because for 100 or 200% I'm going to say that you're going to get one question related to this homology, analogy, convergent, divergent evolution. Every year we get this type of question. Now come to the next question. The similarity of bone structure, just similar to the question earlier we discussed, when they are structurally similar, when something is structurally similar, what does that mean? That they are a homologous structures, because here the forelimbs of many vertebrates, they are structurally similar because they have arisen from the same ancestor, though their structure is going to perform the different functions, but they are structurally as well as through ancestry similar to each other. So similarity of the bone structure in the forelimbs of many vertebrates is an example of the homology. So answer is 2. Now, which of the following is not, here also is not an autoimmune disease? Vitiligo, psoriasis, Alzheimer's disease, and the rheumatoid arthritis. So actually Alzheimer's disease is not related to the autoimmune disease. It is an age-related disease where the brain cells start getting deteriorate or they start to die. So it is an age-related disease where the person starts to having a dementia, basically loss of the memory. So Alzheimer's disease is your correct option here. Now, A very important question. Which of the following characteristics represent inheritance of blood groups in human? So inheritance of the blood group, few points I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to explain you show you the options. So dominance. Blood group does not have a relationship of dominance, that is one blood group is dominant over the other. They have actually a co-dominance relationship. How do they have? That A and B are equally dominant to each other. Okay, they are equally dominant to each other. How? If somebody has a allele also, B allele also for the blood group, then they are going to have the AB blood group, because both are going to be expressed themselves. So both are equally dominant. This relationship is known as the co-dominance. So human blood group has a relation of the codominance. So the first one is your codominant, that is your B. Okay, now multiple alleles. Actually, three alleles control the blood group. That is the IA, that is your IB, and the small I. These three alleles are going to control the inheritance of the blood group, and such type of inheritance we call is known as the multiple allelism. So C option is also your correct option. Now coming to the incomplete dominance. As I told you, there is no dominance relationship, there is no incomplete dominance relationship, because there is an existence of the codominance. So two things cannot take in place together. Either you have a codominance or either you have the incomplete dominance. Both of them cannot occur. So incomplete dominance has nothing to do with the inheritance of the blood group in human beings. Then we have the polygenic inheritance. That is one trait. Okay, polygenic, that one trait, it's controlled by many genes. So here actually already told you that we have three alleles. So one trait, that is a trait is what here? Blood group, is controlled by many genes. So polygenetic inheritance is also an example of the inheritance of the blood group. So three things is going to control your blood group. The first one is a codominance, multiple allism, and the polygenetic inheritance, that is B, C, and E. So this is how the inheritance of the blood group occurs. So second option is your correct statement, B, C, and E. So this is an important question. It covers, different questions. Sometimes they ask you, not even giving you these multiple options. They sometimes ask you, 4 options only, and then ask you which of the inheritance is related to the blood group. So this is an important question. Now, conversion of a milk to curd improve its nutritional value by increasing the amount of vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and the vitamin A. Actually, vitamin B12 is associated with this. It increases its nutritional value by converting the milk into the curd. Now, match the following. Here also comes the match the following, and you have to select the correct option. Okay, you have to select the correct option. So eutrophication. So eutrophication is associated with what? Eutrophication is associated with the nutrient enrichment. When excess nutrients get deposited in certain oceans or in any water bodies, so it leads to what? It leads to the formation of the algal blooms there, which leads, and when these algal blooms are formed, it leads to what? It leads to the depletion of the oxygen present in the water bodies. And this is how it affects the aquatic organisms. So A matches with your third option. So if you look at the options given here, only one option is related to A with the third one, that is with the correct option. So somehow, sometimes even matching 1 or 2 points, you easily get the correct answer. So try to always, when you match the column, always try to look into the answers, into the options to get the correct option easily. Sometimes even one, you can see here, only one option gives you the correct answer. So maybe somebody does not know the B and the C and the D option. Only one option if they know, because this is a direct question from the NCERT given in the ecology chapter. So might be this helps you to solve these questions. So, each marks is very important. 4 marks can give you a positive result as well as a negative result. So make sure and make a strategy to do the questions very nicely. Like I told you here, what is the strategy here? Finding out the correct option. Only one option can give you the correct answer. So the correct answer is the third option. Now, which one of the following population interaction is widely used in a medical science for the production of the antibiotics? Amensalism, where the other organism is harmed and it is a negative interaction basically. Commensalism is when one is positively affected and another one is neutral. Parasitism is actually when they're in, feeding on the living host and does not lead to the death of the other organism. Mutualism, where both is positively affected. So actually, amensalism is a method where we are using it for the production of the antibiotics. So the correct option here is the first option. Now, all of the following are included in ex situ conservation except. So here is an exception they are asking. So first of all, you have to know what is ex situ conservation, off-site conservation. Okay, what we call it as off-site conservation, where we are protecting the organism from a site other than its original habitat. Okay, we're taking it somewhere else and there they are protecting us. So out of these seed banks, wildlife safari parks, botanical gardens, and the sacred groves. Actually, sacred groves are example of in situ conservation, where we are conserving the organism at its original habitat. Rest of them are ex situ conservation or off-site conservation. So answer is your D option, or you can say your fourth option. Now, in a growing population of the country, where the population is growing exponentially, there what should be the type of pyramid first of all you will have? You will have more number of actively reproducing organisms where you are growing the population. Okay, because if they are reproductively active, they're going to produce more organisms and the population of a country is going to increase. They're asking about growing population of the country. So wherever you have a more number of individuals which are actively reproductive, they have a growing population. So pre-reproductive individuals should be less than the reproductive individuals is the correct option, because you need more actively reproducing individuals to get the growing population. Now, which part of the poppy plant is used to maintain the drug SMAC? SMAC is actually a drug which is an opioid drug. Okay, it is a opioid drug, and it is obtained from where? It is obtained from the flowers of the plant. Okay, from the flowers of the poppy plant is actually used to produce this SMAC. It is a drug. Okay, it is taken actually, it is actually used as a drug abuse, so it is harmful for the body if it is taken in excess quantity. So poppy flowers actually produces a milky fluid which is actually acting your raw SMAC. And this SMAC is generally, with a common name, people call it as heroin also. Okay, so it is used with both the names. Now, the next option says that which of the following gastric cells indirectly help in erythropoiesis? What is erythropoiesis? Erythropoiesis is actually the formation of the red blood cells, is known as the erythropoiesis. So they're asking about the parietal cells, chief cells, goblet cells, and the mucus cells. In the gastric glands, we have different types of cells present. So actually, vitamin B12 play a very important role in the erythropoiesis. And where they are associated with the parietal cells. Actually, they produces an intrinsic factor we have studied in the digestion and absorption of the food, which is necessary for the vitamin B absorption or vitamin B12 absorption, which is very important for the red blood cells formation. So parietal cells is going to indirectly help in erythropoiesis. Very important question. Now, let's go ahead with the next question. Match the items here also. So this is a direct question from the NCERT. If you look into the chapter of the circulation of the body fluids, in the beginning of the chapter, in 3-4 lines, they have given this question. So you can see how much important your NCERT is. So you have to match the correct option. First of all, underline the important part of the question. Fibrinogen, globulin, and the albumin. Fibrinogen is actually participating in the blood clotting. Globulin is important for the osmotic balance, and albumin is a defense of the body. So what should be the answer? The fibrinogen is associated with the blood clotting. Okay, and what did I told you about the globulin? So what is the answer? Fibrinogen, albumin, and the globulin. That is your first option. That is fibrinogen, blood clotting, globulin, osmotic balance, and albumin, blood clotting. This is a direct question from the NCERT given in the beginning of your chapter, circulatory and the body fluids. Now let's go ahead further, guys. So we have few more questions to do. So which of the following is an occupational respiratory disorder? This is also given in your respiration chapter in the last portion of your chapter. Okay, where your disorders of the respiration is given. So the option says emphysema, anthracis, botulism, and silicosis. Actually, silicosis is a disease which is caused by the inhalation of the silica in the lungs, and this is an occupational disease. The individuals, working in the mining industries, there they have such type of disease because there they have more use of the silica. Botulism is actually a food poisoning. Okay. Anthracis is the disease of cattle, which is caused by the Bacillus anthracis. And emphysema is a lung disease where the alveolar surface area get decreased. So occupational disorder is your silicosis here. So answer is your fourth option. Now, calcium is important in the skeleton muscle contraction. Why? In the muscular contraction, we have the sarcoplasmic reticulum, right? We have the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which stores the calcium. It is a storehouse of the calcium, which is released during the muscular contraction. Actually, you must have studied that during the muscle contraction, your actin and myosin, they form a cross bridges. You get to bring about the muscle contraction. So how do they form a cross bridges? There is always a masking of the sites with the help of the troponin. Okay, troponin is a protein. Okay, troponin is a protein which is going to mask the binding sites of the actin and the myosin together. So how does this calcium is going to work? Calcium actually released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it displays the troponin from the actin. So where is the troponin present? Troponin is present on the actin, somewhat like this. I'll show you here. This, let's say this is your actin here. Okay, and on top of that we have the troponin molecules present. So when the calcium ions come here and bind to it, these troponin are being exposed. It exposes the binding sites for the actin onto the myosin, and this is how they form a cross bridges to bring about the muscular contraction. So calcium plays a very important role in the muscular contraction. You can't do the muscle contraction if you do not have the calcium in your body. So calcium is an essential component. So what should be the answer according to that? That it binds to the troponin to remove the masking of active sites on the actin for the myosin to form the cross bridges. So answer is 2. Now, let's come to the next question. Nissl bodies are mainly composed of free ribosomes and rough endoplasmic reticulum, proteins and the lipids, nucleic acids and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, DNA and the RNA. So Nissl body, this is actually associated with the neurons. Okay, it is associated with the neurons. If you look at the structure of the neurons in the cell body, in the nucleus, somewhere here we have a lot of Nissl granules present. So these Nissl bodies is actually a free ribosomes and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Very important question. So the correct option here is the first option. Now, which of these following statement is incorrect statement? So let's read the question first, then we'll find the incorrect statement here. Oxidative phosphorylation takes place in the outer mitochondrial membrane. So we immediately got the wrong statement. So this is actually oxidative phosphorylation does not take place in the outer mitochondrial membrane. It takes place in the inner mitochondrial membrane. Okay, it takes place in the inner mitochondrial membrane. So immediately with the first option we get the correct answer here. So the correct option here comes out to be the first option. Now let's move further. Set the incorrect match here. So you can see a lot of questions are based on finding out the incorrect statement. So always read the question carefully. I'll repeat this again. Always read the question. So the option says polytene chromosome found in the oocytes of amphibians, Lamb-Rush chromosome diplotin bivalents, submetacentric is related to the L-shaped chromosomes, and allosomes are known as the sex chromosomes. So actually polytene chromosomes are found in the oocytes only, and Lamb-Rush chromosomes are does not found in the diplotin bivalents. Okay, polytene chromosomes are found in the larvae of the some dipterians. So what is the correct here? The polytene chromosome, which is found in the oocytes of the amphibians, is an incorrect statement. It does not find out the oocytes of the amphibians. It rather found in the larvae of the some of the dipterians. So answer is your first option. Now, which of the following terms is related to the human dentition? Very important. And this question we have discussed in our human and digestion chapter. In the slides, you can go to that to explain or to understand that topic. So human dentition has 3 types of dentition. First of all, they are diphyodont. Okay, they are diphyodont, that they have a milk teeth replaced earlier by the permanent teeth. Then they have heterodont. What is heterodont? That is, they have 4 types of teeth: incisors, canines, okay, premolars and the molars. And they also are thecodont. Okay, how they are thecodont? Their teeth are embedded in the jaw of the socket bone. So what should be the answer accordingly? The answer is the fourth. That is, they have thecodont, diphyodont, and the heterodont. So direct question given in your NCERT. All three types of teeth are given here in the NCERT only. Now, which of the following events does not occur in the rough endoplasmic reticulum? So what is rough endoplasmic reticulum? Which possess the ribosomes in it. So phospholipid synthesis, protein folding, cleavage of signal peptide, and protein glycosylation. So phospholipid synthesis is not a role of the rough endoplasmic reticulum, because it is a role of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Very easy question. Even in your 9th grade also you have studied this thing about the smooth and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So phospholipid synthesis is associated with the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, not with the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, many ribosomes may associate with a single mRNA. See, many ribosomes, so let's say this is a single mRNA. On top of that, sometimes we have many ribosomes present together and bring about the translation process. So this condition is known as the polyribosomes. Okay, it is known as the polyribosomes, also known as the polysomes. Okay, so what is your answer? Answer should be 2. Okay, polysomes or the polyribosomes. Now, next question comes, ciliates differ from all other protozoans in having 2 types of nuclei, having flagella for locomotion, using pseudopodia for capturing the prey, having a contractile vacuole for removing the excess water. So ciliates, they're going to help in the movement. So they use actually a flagella. Does not get confused that ciliates is going to have a cilia in them. Okay, you might be thinking like that. But these ciliates have a flagella in them, which is going to help in the locomotion. Now, next question. Identify the vertebrate group of animals characterized by crop and gizzard in its digestive system. Osteogyzes, this is the fishes, amphibians, aves, and the reptiles. Actually, birds or aves, they both have the crop and gizzard in them, because they are a very important part of the alimentary canal, which is going to help in the digestion process. So answer is aves. Neither fishes nor amphibians and not even reptiles, none of them is going to have the crop and gizzard as a part of their alimentary canal. Only birds have the crop and gizzard as a part of the alimentary canal. Now, next question is, which one of these animals is not a homeotherm? Citicula, Marcopus, Camulus, and the Chilon. This is a direct memory based question. You can just memorize it, that Chilon is actually not a homeotherm. Rest of them are actually, all of them are the homeotherm. Chilon is basically a plant. Okay, Marcopus, Camulus is for the camel, and Citicula, they all are example of the homeotherm organisms. Now, I hope this video is very much clear to you. Guys, do like, subscribe, and share my channel. Remaining questions of this chapter, or you can say this 2018 question paper, I'm going to discuss in the next video, which I'm going to upload very soon for you. Do follow my channel, do like, subscribe, and share my channel, and comment in the comment section. Thank you so much.